Welcome back to Creating Cooperative Kids. I'm your host, Bill Corbett. According to the website for the Mayo Clinic, mayoclinic.com, some studies have shown that certain food colorings and preservatives such as sodium benzoate and FD and C yellow may actually increase hyperactive behavior in some children. But more important than what is causing it is what parents and teachers can do to communicate with and manage the behavior of children with ADHD, more effectively, of course. On the show with me today to discuss this topic are the co-authors of the new book, Navigating ADHD, Your Guide to the Flip Side of ADHD. Tracey Bromley Goodwin has a master's of education and has over 20 years of experience as a teacher and learning coach. Holly Oberacker has a master's of arts in art therapy and has over 13 years of experience working exclusively as an art therapist, working directly with children who have ADHD. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much
for having us.
This is such a hot topic. It doesn't matter what topic I'm speaking about when I do my parent lectures and workshops, ADHD comes up because it's frustrating for parents, and what it's causing parents to do is to have to change the way they parent their children. And we're going to get into that a little bit coming up. But first of all, I want to clear one thing out. So for the viewers who are watching, one of the questions I get oftentimes, and I got it today when we were talking at a workshop, is, well, what happened to ADD? ADD and ADHD. Well, the general public is confused about it because they thought, well, ADD is different from ADHD, and they're right, it is. However, the industry, behavioral health industry, has really kind of put it all under one label. ADHD, ADD is one particular aspect of that disorder. Is that right?
That is correct. So the technical definition is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and there are 3 subtypes. The first subtype is the hyperactive impulsive type, and this is the one that's more overt, where you might see motor restlessness, impulsive behavior, incessant talking, and this is the one that stands out more as a behavior problem, particularly in school. And then the second subtype is the inattentive type, which is commonly known as ADD. And this may be a lack of focus, disorganization. Sometimes the children or even adults are termed dreamy or lazy. And then the most common subtype, which is the third, is the combined type, which incorporates components of both the hyperactive impulsive and the inattentive.
And it's, when we were coming onto the segment, I was talking about the preservatives. From what I could tell, there's not a whole lot of research to validate it. Now, in your book, one of the things you make a point is that what we do know is it may be genetic. That means, for example, I had a daughter who had ADHD, although before it was really prominent in the school system, but I saw her characteristics. Now her daughter, which is my granddaughter, has ADHD. So I can see it coming down the line for me. Now I'm looking at my parents who started this stuff, you know. But beside the fact that we know that it potentially is genetic, there could be some impacts from that. Why did you create Navigating ADHD?
We felt like there was a lack of information out there on what ADHD is and what it isn't. And we, from our experience, we're finding that families were so overwhelmed and felt at a loss for where to go for information, for where to get support, on what their options really were. What were alternatives, or what are alternatives to medication? They would have questions about medication. How can they help their child at school? And we felt really strongly that we know what works really well for children with ADHD in the classroom setting and at home, and we wanted to be able to share in a easy to understand and quickly implemented strategies that families and teachers could use.
And there's also a lot of misinformation out there, as well as a lack of information, and it's frustrating because it's almost like parents have to become a behavioral health expert today to try to figure it out. But why I've asked you to come on the show, not only to help me put frame this disorder, what parents can do that we're going to be talking about, but I love your suggestions and what we're going to be talking about, and it matches exactly what I teach parents, because more and more families have children with autism, or high-functioning autism, or ADHD is a disorder. We've got to, not only do we have to change the way we're parenting for our normal children, normally developing children, but those who have some challenges to deal with, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And when we were designing our book, and the feedback we get from a lot of the readers is that all of the strategies we created can be used with any child, whether they have Asperger's or ADHD, or if they're typically developing. The strategies are simple, easy to implement, and they'll work with a family of children.
And so I feel like we're on a similar mission because I'm speaking the same things. Coming up in the next segment, we're actually going to be talking about some specifics that parents can be doing. And I'm talking about those on a regular basis because while you do help identify the disorder and help parents realize that there are pluses to this disorder, there's things that we can do in changing our parenting.
Absolutely.
So what kinds of things, can you give us some example about the flip side, the whole flip side to it?
It's one of our favorite parts of working with children with ADHD is there's so many strengths and talents that go unnoticed because they get lost in the challenges that children will face and experience. So we love it when we talk to a child and ask them, what do you love to do? Or what comes naturally to you? And it could be playing a sport, musical instrument. It could be they like to interact with younger kids, babysit. It could be absolutely anything. But when we start to help them acknowledge, well, that's pretty great and special, it's a light bulb goes off in their head when they start realizing, yeah, wait a second, I am really great at that, or it does seem to come easier to me. And it comes easier to them because it's very stimulating to their brain, whatever is interesting to them. So they're able to put in this intense amount of energy into whatever that natural talent is.
And that's so important. We've got to help parents make the flip.
Yes.
And as you said, and to see it not as a disorder or challenge, but let's look at the strengths from it. And coming up in the next segment, we're going to be talking about some specifics that parents can start doing right away. Now that we have a better understanding of what ADHD is, I'm going to ask Tracey and Holly to stay with me through the break and into the next segment. They'll be offering some guidance on how to communicate more effectively with children with ADHD and providing tips on how to manage their behavior. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this break.